With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back to the Ashley Berges Show, formerly known as Live Your True Life Perspectives. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about gaslighting. We're going to be talking about manipulation, triangulation, as well as narcissism. And I know that this is a lot to take on all at one time, but I think that right now it's more important than ever to discuss this type of topic because it's happening on a constant basis for most people, whether it's in their personal life, their professional life, or even around the world. It seems that gaslighting is a constant situation that many of us are dealing with. We constantly are being manipulated, and I feel like it's echoing strong when it's happening at the home because it's just compounding from all the other sources that it's taking place in. And so let's talk about gaslighting to begin with, because I think this is something that needs to be addressed first to really understand the concept we're talking about, because I think sometimes this gets really, well, I guess it gets overlooked. And when we're talking about gaslighting, and I know that this is a word that a lot of people use, and I understand that. People are like, oh, it's so overused. Well, you know why it's overused? It's because it's happening all the time, okay? It's happening on a constant basis. And gaslighting is a type of emotional and psychological abuse that revolves around entitlement and seeking to control another person. Okay, this is the deal. It's about trying to control somebody, trying to get them to doubt themselves, lying with intention. And gaslighting is something that's really good at making somebody question themselves. It's very detrimental to the psyche. And it's just something that is absolute abuse. And it might not be physical, like when somebody's gaslighting you, they're not punching you, but gaslighting is real. Okay. And it's happening all the time now. And a lot of times it's going under the radar because it's happening in ways that you don't even know. And so, there's 5 types of gaslighting. That's something that we want to talk about. And the first type of gaslighting that I want to bring up is lies, okay? It's the concept of the lies. When we're dealing with gaslighting, we're dealing with people changing and augmenting the truth to benefit them, okay? So when somebody lies about something, right, they're denying something or they're refusing to admit the truth about something, even when there's evidence to prove the fact that they're lying. And we see this all the time. I mean, many of you are dealing with this in your personal life. You're dealing with this in your marriage. Maybe you have a parent dynamic that is constantly gaslighting you and changing the narrative of what the reality is in the exact moment. We also are dealing with it on a bigger picture, right? We're dealing with it on a constant basis in society, on social media, in our government, and everything else that's happening, that there's constantly something said that's not true. And then you're gaslit and you start believing these lies. But if you go against the lies or you say that that's not true, then you're deemed a loser, or you're deemed that you're making this up, or that you have some sort of mental illness. Another type of gaslighting is manipulation. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. How it really goes hand in hand is when you manipulate somebody, you're trying to control them. You're using tactics to control them. You're trying to gain advantage over them. And you're trying to create confusion and doubt within that person as well. If I manipulate you properly, right? If I'm manipulating you properly and I'm doing it right, I got you so discombobulated and confused, you don't know what's up and you don't know what's down, okay? So this is perfect because I can pull whatever I want to pull. I've gotten you so questioning your own reality that you don't even know what's going on anymore. You stop being detective and you start having to actually just take care of yourself and try to self-soothe and try to figure it out. And that's when you know you're in a real caustic, toxic environment. Another type of gaslighting is what we call scapegoat. I know everybody's heard of scapegoat. Many of you have also heard of the black sheep, right? Black sheep and scapegoat go hand in hand. So if you're a black sheep of the family, you understand everything has been put on you. all the blame and all the problems and all the responsibility is on you. If you're in a marriage where you can't do anything right, where literally everything is about you, you are the problem, you are the issue, the other person does no wrong, you are the scapegoat. And I know that a lot of you are dealing with this. You've probably been dealing with it from childhood. You dealt with it in the family dynamic. You were the scapegoat. You were the black sheep. And then now here we are in your marriage or in this relationship, and there you are becoming the scapegoat again. Now, coercion is another thing, too, where you pressure someone using threats or force into doing something that they wouldn't otherwise do. Coercion is also used a lot of time in the concept of shame and guilt. Okay, so I'm going to shame you into doing something. I'm going to shame you into doing something that you wouldn't obviously do otherwise. And a good example that I see with a lot of my clients in the last recent 3 years is that the other person in the relationship is shaming them to get material items that my client maybe can afford, but honestly is changing their financial trajectory based on buying these things. For example, people wanting plastic surgery, cars, houses, whatever that is. And the person's over there thinking, gosh, I don't have enough money. I have kids over here I'm trying to support. Now I'm trying to support this girl or this guy or whatever it is. And and they shame you into doing things. Well, I guess you're just, you're just poor or I guess you're just cheap. If you really cared for me and loved me, you would do this. My ex would take care of all these things, but I guess you just don't have the ability to do so. And so they end up shaming you and coerce you into doing these things that really, honestly, you don't want to do. It's not in your best interest, and you know it as you're doing it, but they're shaming you and guilting you into it. And you know for a fact that these same people, if the tables were turned, would not give you these items, would not take care of you financially, and would also make you do it. So it's interesting how they like to make you say, oh, well, if I was in your position, I would take care of you. But I find that, well, not true at all. One last aspect that I want to talk about gaslighting, specifically as far as types are concerned, is trivializing situations, making things small, minimizing them, and people trivialize your feelings. They trivialize your emotions. They trivialize your experiences. They trivialize your age and your past. You see that many times when people get married to or in relationships with people that have a great difference in age. So let's say somebody gets married to or is in a relationship with somebody that's 20 years, younger. And that young person's over there, trivializing the experience that the other person has had, also putting them down for their age and what have you, but also minimizing the other person's feelings. One of the best ways to gaslight somebody is to make them believe that, one, they're off target and they're wrong. But the second thing that's interesting is when you can get that person to actually, not even believe their own emotions, not even believe or minimize their own emotions because they have been minimized for so long. And so, I know that a lot of y'all have dealt with this and have dealt with gaslighting in a relationship. It doesn't feel good. And a lot of the results from gaslighting are pretty painful. These gaslighting results, get you to question yourself. You have trouble making any decisions on what to eat, what to drink, where to go, what to do. You're constantly apologizing for your actions, even though it's not your actions that are causing the problem. And I find that very interesting too, because, when you're looking at that type of thing, it's like, okay, I'm questioning myself because I've been in this relationship so long that I'm starting to wonder, what's up and what's down. I'm also doing a lot of self-blaming because that's part of it too. Is because remember, the narcissist is going to get you to believe that you're the problem, you're the issue, and to blame you and not them. That's just part of the way that it works. That's why the narcissism is so problematic. And I know some of you will say, oh, there's not that many narcissists out there. Well, you know what? You're wrong. Okay, you're wrong. There's a lot of narcissists out there. Yes, there's a lot of people that just have a few symptoms and signs of narcissism. Most of us have at least one or two, right? But I'm talking about the full-on enchilada, and this exists. And, there's also a combination. There might be other things, at play at that time. It might not be straight narcissism, okay? There is dual diagnosis. There are issues here. But thinking about that, the other thing is that when you're walking on eggshells around that person, like everything is an issue. You know, you get home 1 minute after 6 o'clock and it's a problem. And then they cause a problem for 4 or 5 hours and gaslight you and manipulate you about how you don't care about them and you don't care about their time and you don't care about this and you don't care about that, even though they don't work. Even though, 1 minute's not a big deal, but it's a way of finding a problem with you so they don't have to look internally at their own issues, which they have a lot of issues. Another aspect, too, is that you start getting to the point where you stay quiet. Okay, you stay quiet because you're scared. You stay quiet because when you express your feelings and beliefs, they're either made fun of, they're belittled, they're looked down upon, they're questioned, and then you're also at the same time, because if you've been gaslit for a long time and you're in the presence of a narcissist, you have to remember that you're going to question your feelings, your judgments, and observations now more than ever. You're not even going to trust yourself anymore. Okay, that's what they get you to do. That's why it's so highly successful. Okay, is that they get you to question your own self. So now you're in an eternal battle with yourself. You're no longer battling with them anymore. Yes, you're walking on eggshells and if I don't do this, they won't get mad at me. If I get home on time, they won't yell at me. If I get them alcohol or I go get them this, they'll be nice to me for an hour or so. So there you are, coddling and codependent in this situation. At the same time, anytime you make a comment, you're questioning your belief system, your judgment, because they're making fun of you or making you feel as though you're not worthy. Again, this all leads into this problematic situation. You begin to doubt your memories. You doubt the recall of the events that happened because they start making things up. Like, for example, you weren't there for me on this day 3 years ago. Okay, and so you get to hear about that and then if you go back, it was interesting. I had a client recently where, their significant other was bound and determined to make this the issues. Like, back in July of 2022, you did this to me. And it was on these dates and these were the times. And I said, go back to your phone and go into your phone and look at your photos. And I want you to see where you were on those exact dates. They were on a vacation. They were on a vacation together. Everything that was being said by their partner was a lie. It was a complete fabrication of reality generated to make this person feel bad, when in reality, they had spent money on a very nice trip and they were on a trip for 7 days. Again, they made you doubt your reality. They made you believe, oh, I must have been a jackass. I must have been gone and didn't take care of them. Where was I? Where would I have been? But in reality, when you go back to, the almighty phone, you find out that, oh, Jesus Christ, that's not the case. I spent all this money. We were on a trip. I wasn't even working. I wasn't even taking care of my responsibilities. But this person had me questioning full-on reality, believing that I was the problem for something that actually did not even take place.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Okay. And the crazy thing about it is when you get manipulated so hard like this, they're so smart about what? They start isolating you. They start trapping you so that it's just you and them, just you and them. Oh no, I don't want to see your friends. Oh, I don't want anybody over here. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? And so eventually they're isolating you. You start isolating you. Now it's just you trapped in this relationship, completely questioning your reality. And this person's just rolling game on you. I mean, they are running game all over you. And they have no intention of stopping. This doesn't get any better. It only gets worse. Okay? They're only going to take as much as they can and as long as they can until you break or you actually wake up to the truth and reality of what you're dealing with. And I know that many of you are like, man, this is exactly happening to me, Ashley. I'm constantly feeling on edge. I'm constantly unable to relax. I'm constantly feeling threatened at all time. When I go home, it is my hell. Okay, if you're in this position where when you go home, you're constantly on edge, you can't relax, you can't sit down, you're constantly feeling threatened, this is not a good place to be at. This is a very painful place to be at. This is a very scary place to be at because home should be at least calm. Home should be a place that you want to go to and relax. Home should not be a place of being accosted, accused of, lied to, ridiculed. And I find that when you're uncomfortable and you're on edge, that's the perfect place and the perfect time to make a change. Okay? Because the next section under that is when things get worse, is when you believe that you're unable to do anything right. Okay? When it's getting even worse and worse and you're questioning your reality, you're feeling disappointed, now you're getting depressed. And then many people turn to alcohol and drugs, right? Because they're depressed. And it's like, well, I might as well smoke a bunch of weed and pass out so I don't have to hear her or him bitch about whatever, right? Or you're overly drinking or overly self-medicating, or maybe you're taking a lot of sleeping pills now and you can barely wake up in the morning because, God forbid, you have another argument. I mean, many of you are already sleeping in separate rooms already. That's not a question. Some of you aren't, but it's just escalating every single moment of the day. And so we need to be able to recognize when you're in a relationship like this and what you can do. And I've realized, too, that when we get to this point, we're no longer just dealing with gaslighting. We're also dealing with triangulation. And, I think this is an interesting situation because when somebody is triangulating you, okay, it's like, the pyramid kind of situation. I'm not going to do anything I'm not going to do any hand signals for it. I think you can understand what a pyramid looks like, right? So in the context of communication and relationships, to triangulate someone means to bring a third person. So you got three sides. So you bring a third person into a situation to control communication between two other people. This third person usually comes in to mediate, or to manipulate or to undermine the relationship between those other two people. You can see it as like a parent dynamic, like a parent involved with, their older child in a marital issue, or a younger child in a marital issue. So the parent tries to triangulate the situation between the other parent and the child. Or, for example, if somebody's unhappy that their grown adult married somebody, one parent could triangulate and be judging and having issues. It's just a communication situation where it's a control of the communication, right? And so it involves that third party. Like, for example, a person could, create a situation where a family or a friend or family member becomes like the communication between them and their partner, right? Again, kind of creating this different type of flow and this different phenomenon. And what I found is that this is highly used by narcissists to control the situation. And the best thing that they do in this situation, which I find very interesting, is they pit the two people against one another, or they try to create a situation where they're getting all the attention, right? Or they try to create, and this is the best thing, is to shame someone. So they bring someone in. Let's say you have a couple, and the one person brings in maybe their best friend or a parent dynamic, and they start shaming that other person, where that person should be supplying other things, or, oh, now you're married now, you're the husband or whatever. You should be providing this. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so cheap? What's wrong with you? You should be shamed. This is horrible. And so they start shaming this other person to get whatever they can get because, they basically triangulate the situation and make it really, really hard on that one person. And narcissists use this all the time to get what they want. They use this to get what they want. And a key sign is, when people are taking sides, when there's conflict. And this is a big thing that a lot of people don't know how to deal with, or even that it's happening, is when somebody brings you in to fight their fight even, or brings you in to try to get the other person to understand, or brings you in to try to convince the other person of their problems or issues. You're in this type of situation. And it's not a fun place to be. I mean, it's a manipulation tactic that's used. And it's used by narcissists to gain control, right? To influence that other person and for them to show themselves as the victim. So, for example, if I'm trying to create the victim reality and I want everybody to believe that I'm the victim, I'm going to tell somebody this horrible, sad victim story, okay? And I'm going to say, oh, this is, I'm going through this because of this person. And then this person's going to come in and believe my story and then beat up on the other person, right? They're going to beat up on that other person, believing the fact of what I said. I'm going to get validation from that, right? I'm going to get support from that. And all the while, I don't have to be accountable for that, right? I'm going to make this other person accountable for the problem that's mine, and I'm going to act like that other person created this problem. And it's a perfect thing for narcissists to do because, again, like I was talking about the gaslighting, it creates the isolation. It makes the other person in the situation be unsupported and have no support. And nobody sees the other perspective, right? So you get that one other person in there beating up that third person over and over again. The third person is now being gaslit so much by not only their spouse or significant other, but by this other party that then they start taking on things that aren't even their responsibility. They start even believing the fact that maybe it is their responsibility. And this is a major tactic. For example, in relationships, I recently had a client that, they're married and the other person doesn't work, and that's fine, but there's no children involved. There's no house cleaning involved. There's nothing. This other person is contributing zero to the relationship. And, now that person that's contributing zero because people were saying, well, why aren't you working? Why aren't you doing this and that? They brought in a third party and then they lied about their spouse, saying the spouse has created this problem where they are psychologically imbalanced now, that they don't feel good about themselves, or that this person has made them physically ill. And so now the third person in this triangle, right, is saying, oh, you're the bad guy. You're the person. So it's not the person that won't get the job. It's not the person that won't do anything. Now it's the other person's problem, right? And so now the other person's trying to prove the fact that I didn't make this person sick. I didn't create this reality. I'm not doing this to this person. I'm giving all the resources I possibly can to this person. But see, you brought in that third party to continue to beat that other person down so that the narcissist can always be the victim. So there's always a reason that narcissist doesn't have to do anything because it always works for them. Because as long as they bring that in, they always have someone to manipulate. As long as they bring that third party in to triangulate the situation, they always have control. And they always have numbers. So it's always them and that person against the innocent person every single time. And sometimes the person in the triangle with them know what they're doing. So don't lie to yourself and say, oh, this person's completely innocent. They just didn't even know that this person brought them in. Sometimes there's a reason for it. Sometimes the person that's brought in to triangulate as well is trying to ruin that relationship, trying to get something out of it. They have their own self-interest involved, that they want something. Very rarely is that not the case. Now, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the narcissist is so good with that other person, creating them as a flying monkey, that they get away with it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they make that person a flying monkey, and they're so good at getting that person to believe that situation, that it's a perfect situation. And so that flying monkey is like loving it, eating up all of this, thinking, oh, I'm right, I'm trying to help this person, when in reality, it's just a victim reality that they are trying to create and trying to BS everybody into believing it. And, it's interesting because this isn't just with, it's not just like nowadays. This has been going on forever. Forever and forever, this type of reality has been happening. And so you can recognize this when people are involving this third party. You can see it. If you can see the tactic, you can see it. If you can begin to see the tactic in these relationships. So like some of the signs is you're feeling like you're being pitted against others. You may feel like you're in constant competition. You may be thinking that you're trying to get approval and appreciation all the time, of perfection, and you can't get it. You keep giving till it hurts, and you still can't get it. You still can't get it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove this. I'm going to be this person. I'm going to give this. I'm going to do that. Still never works. Another indication, confusion, right? You start questioning yourself. You start wondering about your worthiness. You start getting insecure about the situation. The person that's in that triangle with you is starting to make you question yourself even more too. You start feeling like you're going insane. Okay? There's also the manipulative comparison where the narcissist frequently compares you to others in a way that's taking you down. It's unfair. Well, my ex used to buy me all kinds of things. Well, my ex got me a car. I mean, what are you, like a piper? You don't have anything? Or they would take me on these trips all around the world or whatever it is. They make you feel so small. And you start questioning yourself and you start doing things that you really can't afford. You start taking measures that you really should not take. Okay? And then ultimately, you start noticing that the narcissist is actually driving wedges between you and others. They're making others not trust you. They're making others question you. And so I want you to start realizing when that's happening, you're not making this up. This is real. This is very real. And we've made this show a lot shorter right now because I want everybody. There's so much information and there's just so much to go over. I don't want to just blow it up because it can just feel really overwhelming sometimes when you're taking this on because it's like I need to get the information, I need to learn about it, and then I need to safeguard myself. So we're making these episodes a lot shorter so that there's the information, and then you can take that and process it, and then come to the next show and kind of learn even more about how to take care of yourself. And so I want to go over real quick just a few things about manipulation and the top games that people with narcissistic personality play. And that's gaslighting, that's love bombing, that's ghosting, that's triangulation, that's playing the victim, and that's revenge. And we'll talk about that more in upcoming podcast episodes that I think would be helpful for you. And because it's all very important. It's all intertwined, and it's something that we all need to deal with. But last but not least, it's like I want you to be able to realize that if you're very emotionally intelligent and you're a good person and you're an empath, you're the perfect victim, you're the perfect issue, you're the perfect person for them to basically take from. The narcissist is looking for that emotionally intelligent person to get all their stuff from. They're looking for that person to be like, to give and to give and to give till it hurts. And this is a great article about it. 4 ways a narcissist may manipulate the emotionally intelligent. It's great. And it talks about how if you're an empath, you keep giving because you don't realize what's really happening. You're not aware. And so they kind of turn it around and you're trying to help this person, but really, honestly, they're beating you down to give as much as you possibly can give. And you start giving to this wounded person, but it's not enough, right? And so they become even jealous of you, of what you're able and capable of doing. And, it's interesting because if you're an empath, you give. If you're an empath, you're trying to understand the other person. You're like, even if somebody does you wrong, you try to understand the other side of it. Maybe they were in a bad mood. Maybe they were in a bad place. I don't want to judge them. I know that people have bad days and things happen. And so you're giving and giving and giving and believing the best in this person when in reality, there's not a best in this person. Okay, this is what they do. This is how they pull you down. And so I hope that this concept and this content has helped you in a way, and the fact that you can see how people are going by this, how people are dealing with this, and then how to really recognize when this is happening. And I want you to think, are you an empath? Am I giving the benefit of the doubt all the time? Am I in a triangle situation where there's someone else that's beating me down? Am I being gaslit? Am I questioning my reality? Have I become to question my reality in this relationship? And has it become to the point where this person is doing this to make me question my reality and it's hurting me? And I need you to really think about this logically and clearly. Start writing some notes, start journaling so that you can begin to safeguard yourself and we can figure out a way out. But I need you to see that it's actually happening and not lying to yourself and creating a false narrative and also not believing in their false narrative, right? Because that's one of the biggest things. When we fall down and we believe that, that's when we begin to lose ourselves. And we have to be strong so that we can see our truth. I hope this content has helped you. Please share with your family and friends. Check out our YouTube channel. We have Life Coach Ashley Berges as well as the podcast YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to either one, please subscribe to both. Also, if you'd like to set up an appointment, go to ashleyberges.com, ashleyberges.com, and click on that coaching section, and you can actually set up an appointment right then and there. I look forward to working with you. And in the meantime, it's time to safeguard ourselves. It's time to be true to ourselves, but it's also time to love ourselves. And being in a relationship that's toxic like this is not loving. It makes us question ourselves, and it gets in the way of our success, our truth, our happiness, but also our light. We have light to share, and when you're in these relationships, they try to take the light right out of you. I hope this has helped you. Please share with your family and friends, and don't forget to live your true life.